every 15 minutes in Gaza.
I didn't say that.
For the last... No, but somehow they couldn't tell that those children were not combatants, according to you.
No, I didn't say that.
It's understandable.
Piers Morgan, like 90% of the time, says, I didn't say that for things he absolutely has said. All right, let's watch this.
Live from New York City, well, British Iraqi rapper and pro-Palestine activist Kareem Dennis, better known as Lowkey, has been a powerful and influential pro-Palestinian voice before and during this conflict. The official version of his track Terrorist was taken off YouTube after the Hamas attacks on October the 7th, 14 years after its initial release. He's been highly critical of what he says is media bias and accused me of taking a pro-Israel slant on this show. Well, I'm joined now by Lowkey, who's at our London studio. Lowkey, thank you very, very much indeed for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Piers.
Lowkey.
I mean, on the issue of whether I'm pro-Israel, I don't have a horse in this race or this war. I try and be balanced. I try and have all kinds of views. I think we've had more pro-Palestinian people on this show in the last 2 weeks than any other news show.
He's right about that.
In the world. And they've been getting huge audiences.
Piers, say it. Say you get owned by pro-Palestinian voices because you're pro-Palestine. Say it. Free Palestine. Say it. You can't. You're afraid. But we know. We know the truth, Piers. Piers is secretly, I'm going to tell you right now, Piers Morgan has said the Shahada, okay? I have sources on the ground that have told me Piers Morgan, okay, has said the Shahada. He has seen the light of Allah. He is a brave warrior for the Palestinian cause. I know this. I know this to be true, okay? That's why he keeps having pro-Palestinian voices on when no one else will in British media, and then gets owned by them over and over again. Mashallah to my brother Piers Morgan, okay? I will come up with now a name for him that is more Muslim and more Arab, but I don't know. I don't know how I could do that. Piers? What is a P-worded name? Barish Morgan, Barish. Piers. Piers Morgan.
So I would take issue with that charge that somehow I'm slanted one way or another. I think this whole thing is a complete tragedy. I know that you've been committed to the plight of the Palestinians for a long time.
Yeah, maybe like Bilal Mohammed.
Going back at least 15 years from what I can see in terms of you traveling to Gaza. What was your reaction when you first heard about these attacks on October the 7th?
Well, let's be clear. Reading the testimony of survivors of October 7th from Kibbutz Be'eri, like Yasmin Porat, was extremely harrowing. What she alleges is not only that her husband was killed in the initial takeover, but also she then says that the Israeli military tanks fired on the room where the hostages were, killing 12 Israeli civilian captives. We have also seen fantastic work in the Haaretz newspaper by Amos Harel, where he speaks at length about Brigadier General Rosenfeld, who was in charge of the Haaretz crossing. Now, when this military base was taken over, what he says, Amos Harel in Haaretz, the well-known Israeli newspaper, he says that Rosenfeld, when he realized that the base was overtaken, called in an airstrike. This is in Haaretz. These are not my words. These are the words of Amos Harel. What we then saw is, since October the 7th, 22 Israeli civilian detainees killed in Gaza by Israeli airstrikes. The Israeli military has something called the Hannibal Directive. The Hannibal Directive was developed in Lebanon in the 80s by the Israelis with the clear understanding that they do not want the other side to take hostages. So, for example, you have the case of Hada Golding in 2014, what Israel called Operation Protective Edge, which killed over 2,200 Palestinians. But when this Israeli soldier was taken captive by the Palestinians, Israel then proceeded to kill everyone, including the civilians in the area around where he was kept and the soldier himself. So what Israel has, unfortunately, is a policy of killing captives. If you look at the case of Gilad Shalit, This
but
was
hang on.
an Israeli
Let me just-
soldier.
all right, listen,
Allow me to finish. Allow me to finish
Well, yeah,
and
no,
don't
you can't
interrupt
just
me.
keep talking. You can't keep talking.
No, no, I have
and
one
talking,
last
talking.
point to make, and I hope that
All right.
you'll allow me to make it. In the
All right.
case of Gilad Shalit, what happened was one Israeli soldier led to 1,000 Palestinian prisoners being released. There is a clear understanding within the Israeli military and political elite that they do not want people to be kidnapped. So therefore, they unfortunately, as history has shown us and as the directive within the Israeli military shows, they take action to kill their own captives that have been taken by the other side.
Right, let me respond to you. You tweeted on October the 7th, the arrogance to believe you could keep...
I like this because it's like, immediately he's like, everything you said is factually accurate, which is why I'm going to not cover any of the things that you just said and change the subject back to a petty disagreement where I portray your position as though it is pro the slaughtering of 1,400 Israelis in an effort to make myself look better against my audience in the West. He has never, ever responded to anybody. He never responds to people. He always does this.
2 million trapped in an open-air prison indefinitely, ... That appears to have been your only comment about what happened. So just for the record, do you condemn what Hamas did that day?
I condemn the genocidal conditions which have created this violence. Every heartbeat, every human heartbeat is sacred to me. And that is what has compelled me to work as I have for the last 15 years to save lives, and stop people dying, Piers.
But that wasn't my question.
No, we do not have a clear picture of what happened on October 7th because unfortunately, too much of the media has relied on the Israeli military talking points which are given directly to them. Until neutral observers, observers are able to establish the facts of October 7th, I will not allow the talking points of the Israeli military to become dominant of what happened on that day. Palestinians are subject to a genocidal war. Collective punishment in Gaza is real.
Let me respond. You are the only pro-Palestinian person I've had on the show in 2 weeks who has tried to make out that this just didn't happen on October the 7th or somehow was perpetrated by Israelis.
You are misrepresenting what I am saying.
He didn't say that it didn't happen, but I mean, optically speaking, when you are someone in the West speaking to other Westerners, you should 100%. You should 100% say certain things like, condemn the death of civilians. You have to. Like, you should, from a moral perspective. But even if you don't have that position, you should say it. Even if you do not morally consider it, say it tactically. You know what I mean? I always clarify that I also morally consider it to be not appropriate and abhorrent. There is no way that you can get away as someone who is pro-Palestinian. There is no way that you can get away with the same callous indifference to human beings and the lives lost that Israelis enjoy in mainstream media. Something I say all the fucking time. You have to remember that. You cannot speak about Israeli citizens in the same way that Israeli propagandists can speak about Palestinians. Palestinian deaths are always considered to be casualties in this endless war against terror. Israeli deaths, on the other hand, are our friends, our neighbors, our allies. They are worth more. They're worth more. Just in the eyes of the Western world, in the eyes of the world in general, Palestinians die, Israelis are murdered. Okay? And this is a constant that you see in Western media. Palestinians die. How do they die? Nobody knows. Israelis are murdered, ruthlessly slaughtered.
Well, I've got 2 questions. They're very straightforward. Do you believe that 1,500 people were slaughtered, including 260 people at a music festival. You're a musician. And secondly, do you condemn the people who did it? They're not
so,
difficult
Piers,
questions.
I would like to quote something that you just said to the former spokesperson for the IDF. This was your exact sentence not long ago. You said, it's difficult to tell between combatants and non-combatants. So the implication of what you said was somehow it was understandable that Israel has killed a Palestinian child every 15 minutes in Gaza.
I didn't say that.
For the last. No, but somehow they couldn't
literally
tell that those children were not combatants, according to you.
No, I didn't say that.
It's understandable.
Piers Morgan, like 90% of the time, says I didn't say that for things he absolutely has said, like unequivocally, including when he did that to me in the fucking conversation. He loves saying, I didn't say that. Well, he absolutely has said that, as a matter of fact.
Didn't say that, and I have said that it is absolutely appalling, the number of children who are dying in Gaza. It's appalling, and it will get worse. I make no bones about that at all.
And I have to say,
but you have to start. You have to start surely from a humanity point of view. I can absolutely express my horror at the deaths of Palestinian innocent civilians, as I have done many times over the years. I think it's horrifying. And I think this is why I have a serious problem with the proposed ground invasion, because I think it will create unbelievably large numbers of civilian casualties, and I'm not sure that the strategy will work. But I'm just curious why you, who is, I know you care about people. I know you care passionately about the Palestinian civilians, but you're the only pro-Palestine voice I've had who's even tried to suggest that what Hamas did on October the 7th was not as bad as we think. So is that what you think?
What do we think? But what do we think, Piers? The information is not clear. As I've said to you, all human life is sacred.
Hamas haven't even tried to hide it.
It's sacred.
But
I'm not trying to hide anything. You're trying to hide something.
No,
with
respect, with respect, you are definitely trying to dissemble here, and I'll explain why. I've given you an opportunity to simply say whether you condemn what Hamas did, which, by the way, they have brazenly boasted about.
I was about to say, like, I think that a lot of the fucking atrocities or a lot of the murders were also recorded on camera. Did the Israeli military's counter operation also yield a tremendous number of casualties on the Israeli side? Certainly, but it's not like they didn't fucking strap a GoPro camera onto their AKs and onto their armor. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of that footage is out there. Like, that's true. You know, I don't see the reason to deny it. I guess, like, asking for clarity. I don't know. Well, IDF does that, but they don't release it online. Yes, they do. What do you mean? Oh, no, they absolutely do. The only difference is the way we understand it. When IDF posts their war crimes, they do it as a flex. They don't give a shit. They literally posted fucking entire city blocks, reduced to rubble, and said, we dropped 6,000 bombs on Gaza. Like that was an appropriate thing to do. That's crazy to me, okay? Supposedly only like 100 journalists saw that proven video. I mean, a lot of it is online, chat. They were very quickly posted on Telegram groups, you know? I think that's the point, is that if you condemn, you basically say you agree with what the IDF said about the day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What the IDF done is literally demonstrably worse, significantly worse. I don't think anyone who tells me that the IDF operation, not only, and I'm not even talking about the fucking apartheid, which is infinitely more brutal than October 7th. I'll say that every day of the fucking week. Okay, you can get mad at me all day, every day. Pound for pound, there is no comparison. Okay, that's number one. Number two, the retaliation from this siege is also demonstrably worse than October 7th. This does not mean that October 7th was good. Okay, it does not. But make no mistake, ain't nobody's out here fucking condemning Israel for the past 2 weeks of ruthless sieging that has led to almost 3,000 children being ruthlessly slaughtered. Can we also talk about how Piers calls himself a liberal when he's publicly identified as a Tory multiple times? Yeah, we all know he's a Tory. Piers will never fucking condemn. He will never condemn Israel. He has not. He dances around the issue every time.
Posted videos celebrating what they did. There is no doubt about what Hamas did. They want you to know what they did. They want me to know that. They want the world to know. They killed Jewish people in the main and in Israel with impunity. 260 people at a music festival, babies, grandmothers. They kidnapped 200 people. God knows what's happened to them. Now, you can shake your head, but what you can't do is deny that that happened, because Hamas have admitted it brazenly and with great pride.
Stated,
and secondly, if they've admitted it, do you condemn what they did?
I absolutely mourn the loss of all human life in this conflict, and I have struggled for 15 years of my life in a way that, Piers, to be honest, you haven't, okay? And I take you as an empathetic person with a high level of emotional intelligence, okay? I have struggled.
I wouldn't fucking go that far, but I guess you got to glaze them up a little bit because you're on a show, you know what I'm saying?
For 15 years of my life to stop the killing, for a ceasefire now, to stop deaths. But I have to say, Piers, that actually this line of questioning, unfortunately, on a personal level, is somewhat hypocritical, and I'll explain why. On April 18th, 2022, you said the exact phrase that you feel like Nelson Mandela walking out of prison on the long road to freedom of speech. Today, there is a statue for Nelson Mandela outside Parliament.
You know where there is a statue of Nelson Mandela? Palestine. That's right. Yeah, Ramallah. Yeah, Ramallah.
Now, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Beit Salim, and even the Harvard Law School have said that Israel practices apartheid against the Palestinian people. Do you know what the ANC struggle against apartheid entailed?
He's right. He's going to talk about fucking tires. People being doused with gasoline and lit on fire by ANC guys. Are you
aware that the ANC,
called necklacing, as I talked about last night,
are believed to have very unfortunately, horrifically, and terribly taken the lives of children and civilians in their struggle against apartheid? So, Piers, you seem absolutely content to not only compare yourself to Nelson Mandela, who served 27 years in jail for what they described as terrorism at the time, but yet you cannot see what the vast majority of human rights organizations in the world see when they look at the Palestinians. When you look at UN Resolution 194, paragraph 11, the Palestinians have the right to return home. Almost a million of them were displaced in 1948 with the foundation of the State of Israel. And what we are now on the brink of is Palestinians, millions of them, being driven into the Sinai Desert with help of the US Delta Force,
but Lowkey,
with help of the British. This is a manufactured, an Israeli-manufactured humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. There is a 23% infant mortality rate in Gaza.
Let me say something. I completely agree with you about the plan.
No, he doesn't. Why do you say you completely agree with me or everyone else that you have on the show? I mean, I guess he kind of does agree because, like, why else would he fucking have these guys on to, like, own him regularly, myself included? I thought the point of this show was to show Piers wasn't that bad next to Andrew Tate and Kanye. Yeah, except since the Israeli brutal assault on all sensibilities and human rights since October 7th, Piers keeps consistently having pro-Palestine advocates on his show and just fucking sits there and gets owned by them. He will literally get yelled at a little bit. He'll yell back, like what happened with myself, where he'll be like, oh, well, you called me a baboon. And then he'll just sit there and let me fucking unload and let Lowkey unload and let Cenk unload. He's either a masochist or the greatest fucking Palestinian advocate to have ever existed, okay? And he's like doing fifth column shit, okay? He is secretly doing justice to the Palestinian cause. He keeps saying, I completely agree with you, in response to people saying his line of questioning is flawed, but he keeps maintaining the same line of questioning. I've never seen anything like it. I don't understand it. He just sits there and lets everybody fucking dump on him and say things that we never get to say on television otherwise. Like, I don't know, man. Well, it's kind of wild. It's a wild situation. It's wild when I fucking experienced it too. Like, I could not comprehend it. Do you think he just loves the views that it's getting? I think so. I think that's definitely a part of it.
What do you want me now to say?
Like, I mean, dude, every single one of these videos is a fucking banger. Every time he has dudes on, like the Bassem Youssef one got 18 million views. Mohammed Hijab got 7.5 million views, right? Ben Shapiro got 6.3 million views. My conversation got like, what, 3 million views as well. Here it is, 3.6 million views. The one with Cenk is about to pass mine. I think that has like 3 million plus views as well. I don't know where the fuck it is. Piers Morgan versus the Palestinian ambassador got 4.7 million views. He's just, it's weird. He has one good pushback on you when he tried to mischaracterize what you said and pigeonhole you into being pro-terror or whatever. Once you push back, he just ran for the debate for 25 minutes. Yeah, interesting to see. It's odd, but it's also one of the very few places it seems he's trying to show how barbarian all of you are. Yeah, dude, 18 million fucking views on this, and people's opinion on the matter changed from this. You know that, right? Even myself, and I don't think I did that great of a fucking job on the show, right? Overall, even someone like myself has people coming up to me in the fucking streets randomly being like, dude, I saw you on that Piers Morgan interview and you did a fucking great job. Like, changed my mind. You failed miserably. Yep. I don't think I failed miserably at all. 18 million on YouTube, by the way. It got shared an insane amount across Twitter and Instagram. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, my goal, anytime I go on Western media, my goal is to show a side that never gets considered. You kind of got ripped by Piers on the baboon stuff. He really garnered sympathy with that one. No, he didn't. Garnered sympathy for debate perverts who do not care about the actual fucking commentary. You can't turn around and say Piers garnered a lot of sympathy on a fucking conversation where his final take literally... Oh, you're joking. Okay. Where his final take literally at the end it was, well, if peace was a solution we could have had it by now. Like, I fucking sat there and laid into him and explained to him like what my opinion is and how this is the only way to arrive at like permanent security for Israelis and Palestinians, a life of dignity for all. And he went, oh, well, if it could have happened by now, it would have happened. Anyone that fucking looks at a video like that and an interview like that and turns around and says, yeah, Hasan, you got really owned by the guy. I do agree with the guy who straight up fucking lied about what he had said 30 seconds prior and had no takes whatsoever. You know, then you're just demonstrating your own perspective on this. Also, I think I did a decent job of showing that he was a stenographer. You might have been against the Iraq war, but you're using that for evil. Piers says he thinks he's fair and impartial, like Dr. Phil saying, I'm the least judgmental person that I know. I think the death of any child is horrific, but look at that. One of the better TV conversations I've seen on the complexity of the subject. Hasan killed it. His approach was so even-mannered, well-spoken, yet firm in a stance that it was also admirable to watch him contest with someone like, well, Piers with a big platform. Anyway, let's continue.
Applying to the Palestinian people. I've tweeted about this for the last 2 weeks.
No, to be fair, you haven't, Piers, and this is not journalism. Shireen Abu Aqla was journalism. Yasser Murtaja was journalism. Mu'taz Azaiza, that's journalism. Palestinians are reaching out from the cage that Israel has put them in, and they are trying to speak to the world. Yeah, and they are being met. They are being met with cold indifference. And I would say to you, Piers, I would say to you that gentleman that you've just had on the show, Mark Regev, he belongs in The Hague. David Petraeus, you know, Piers, you made your reputation as opposing the invasion of Iraq. Well, I would ask you, journalist to journalist, how could you justify the interview you just gave to the head of US forces in that illegal occupation of Iraq that David Petraeus led? He was then the head of the CIA. Both of the individuals that you have just had on this show deserve to be in The Hague, tried for war crimes. I am not anything like them. I have not hurt a fly. Those two men have. Why are they given the respectability that you gave them with your interview? And why am I interrogated as if I am somehow someone that could hurt a human being?
Well, certainly in Mark Regev's case, I pushed him hard on all the positions Israel is currently adopting.
That wasn't hard.
Let me explain. Because I did a tweet today, and I meant every word of this. I said, I have great respect for anybody who, in the immediate aftermath of this appalling terror attack, said it was outrageous and appalling.
There are 1,500 Palestinians still under the rubble in Gaza.
Exactly. You've had your say.
They're still under the rubble, Piers. They're still under the rubble. You're not bringing them up.
I said I said those whose instinctive reaction was not to feel that, and I think you're one of them, because your reaction was to say the arrogance to think you could keep 2 million people trapped in an open-air prison indefinitely, as if somehow that justified what happened that day.
Piers,
it didn't
Piers,
justify
Piers,
what
you know
happened
exactly
that day.
what you're doing.
And you should be able...
I think I did a decent job of dispelling that. I think I diffused it quite well. I said analysis is not justification. And I think that's a very quick and easy way to deflect and just like diffuse that bomb that he tries to drop on you cynically. Oh yeah, really? Like, if you don't say that this fucking violence on October 7th was actually in a vacuum, that you're anti-Semitic and that you think it's cool and you think it's justifiable, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous, dude. You're such a cynical asshat when you do that. That's why that original TikTok of mine that went viral because that person was trying to say, like, you want 250 people to die. You think that that's awesome. To which I responded with, I want no one to die. You want the violence to continue because you do not want to analyze where this violence starts. TikTok is the new home of the revolution, bro. Your shit going nuts on there. Thank you, Slatty Matty. I got the fucking... Vamp Life advocates in the chat.
The point when that tweet was sent, you had not seen anything had happened.
You've had your criticism of me, and that's fine. You're perfectly entitled to it. Like I said to you, or you said about me, I believe in free speech. You're entitled to your opinion of me, of David Petraeus, of Mark Regev. But I'm also entitled to judge you as somebody who did not find it in themselves to express anything involving any outrage or any...
I've just expressed it. And Piers, this is not journalism. The idea of us comparing our moral compasses and somehow I have a deficient moral compass. Somehow I am a moral monster.
That.
You know what's true? You know what's true is I am not... The people that have shown a cold indifference to the ethnically cleansed Palestinians, dispossessed, 1 in 3 every refugee in the world is Palestinian. They are the largest refugee population. Those who have turned a blind eye to their suffering are those that need to be seriously interrogated.
It's just kind of, it just like destroys any serious conversation where I'm happening when a tremendous amount of the convo revolves around like Piers Morgan's personal feelings. That's why I said it was like selfish, like that children are dying as we have this conversation, and it's just like so selfish to just be like, oh well, you think I'm a propagandist? Like, yeah, who cares? I got it. You tweeted. You know what I mean? You tweeted. Congratulations for tweeting. It's TikTok. No, the TikTok. This one got 4.6 million views, but. That's not what I was thinking
from the worst terror attack since 9/11. If their mission now is to get rid of Hamas, then what they are doing is consistent with that, isn't it?
No, you said Israel has a right to defend itself. Absolutely zero people think that this is a ridiculous statement. However, how Israel is defending itself is collective punishment. Collective punishment in the form of depriving 2.2 million people of electricity, of water, of food, 51 people dying in the West Bank where, there is no Hamas in the West Bank, killing 3,480 Palestinians so far in Gaza, 1,000 plus children, 22 hospitals being bombed. These are horrifying crimes that you would openly say are horrifying and unjustifiable when Russia does it, but when Israel does it, Israel has a right to defend itself. This is identical to the same talking points that I've heard from every Israeli administration official. It's the same thing that I've heard from everyone else in the media. You might have been against the Iraq war, but you're using that for evil, in my opinion, at this point, if you are not sitting here and condemning those war crimes, those acts of violence, those acts of collective punishment.
Is this Lowkey derail the talk? No, I don't think so. I think Lowkey did a good job.
About
a great job.
Their moral compass. And I would ask you before we end the show, I would ask you that I am able to read out the names of the 20 Palestinian journalists that have been killed in Gaza.
Because I have 2 more guests.
So you're censoring me.
To have 8 minutes for them. We have 4 left.
It's 20 journalists. So I'm being censored now. And I'll tell you something else.
You're not being censored.
This badge, zoom in on this badge. This badge was given to me by an employee of this building who said they were told they could not wear this badge because it was the Palestinian flag. You talk about uncensored. This is censored. This badge was banned from an employee in this building.
I have told nobody they can or can't wear a badge. So that's a ridiculous thing to say. I'm in New York. But good to see you, Lowkey. I appreciate you coming on the programme.
I'm in New York.